The quantum resonance sensors of the Zarkon Imperial flagship Dominance hummed with a low, almost contemptuous vibration as it tracked the incoming human fleet. Commander Vexnar's crystalline exoskeleton shifted with disdain, his multiple eyes, each a complex network of prismatic sensors, scanning the approaching vessels with a mixture of amusement and profound disinterest. "Observe," he pronounced to Sub-Coordinator Krulax, his voice a melodic cascade of harmonics that simultaneously communicated status, emotion, and tactical assessment. The pitiful approach of a species barely emerged from its planetary cradle. The Zarkon Command Center was a marvel of biomechanical engineering. Walls pulsed with living circuitry, neural networks that could process complex tactical scenarios in nanoseconds. Holographic displays transformed constantly, showing potential battle configurations with mathematical precision. Every surface was alive, responsive, an extension of the ship's collective consciousness. In stark contrast, the human fleet approached with a chaotic elegance that would have been comical if it weren't so unexpectedly sophisticated. The U.S. Defiance led the formation, a military corvette that looked like it had been assembled from the dreams of a dozen different engineers. Its hull bore the scars of previous encounters, emergency patch jobs telling stories of survival against impossible odds. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of organized chaos. Her neural interface, a cybernetic marvel developed in the desperate years after Earth's near-ecological collapse, crackled with real-time data, where Zarkon interfaces were clean, precise, and detached. Her system was raw, intuitive, alive with human unpredictability. "Status report," she called out, her voice calm despite the massive alien fleet looming before them. Lieutenant Marcus Chen, head of tactical systems, responded without taking his eyes off the holographic displays. "Quantum shields at 87%. Adaptive armor is cycling through potential frequency disruptions. Mining laser conversion is at standby." The mining laser wasn't just a weapon. It was a testament to human ingenuity. Originally designed to crack asteroid shells for rare mineral extraction, it had been retrofitted into a precision cutting tool that could slice through advanced energy shielding. Where the Zarkon saw specialized equipment, humans saw potential. Beside the Defiance, other vessels in the human fleet told similar stories. The cargo ship Hermes, its hull covered in emergency heat-resistant panels, carried a payload of experimental electronic warfare systems. What appeared to be a disabled support vessel was actually a mobile sensor platform capable of disrupting even the most advanced communication networks. Vexnar's communication officer, a bioengineered being whose entire existence was dedicated to processing interstellar communications, translated the human fleet's approach. "They are not following any standard engagement protocols," the officer reported, mandibles clicking with confusion. "Their formation suggests multiple potential attack vectors, but none conform to known tactical doctrines." Krulax leaned closer to the holographic display, six-fingered hands moving across bioluminescent control panels. "It's as if they're writing their tactical approach in real time." Impossible. But for humans, the impossible was merely an invitation. The story of how humanity reached this moment was etched in desperation and innovation. Decades of ecological near-collapse, resource wars, and the constant threat of extinction had forged a species that viewed limitations as challenges to be overcome. When traditional military structures failed, they didn't rebuild, they reimagined. Elena Rodriguez represented that reimagining. A former asteroid mining engineer turned military strategist, she understood that survival wasn't about perfection, but adaptation. Her crew reflected that philosophy: engineers beside soldiers, programmers alongside tactical specialists. Each member was not just a role, but a potential solution waiting to be activated. As the two fleets approached visual range, the fundamental difference became clear. The Zarkon saw a battle to be won through established protocols. Humanity saw a complex, living puzzle waiting to be solved. The first shots had not yet been fired, but the real war had already begun. The first volley came without warning, a cascade of quantum-tuned energy lances that should have, by every known metric of galactic warfare, obliterated the human fleet in a single decisive strike. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Vexinar's biomechanical targeting systems registered impossible readings. Weapons designed to slice through planetary defense shields were being redirected, absorbed, transformed. The U.S. Defiance, which moments ago had appeared to be a vulnerable target, revealed itself as anything but vulnerable. Its hull, a patchwork of technologies that would make a traditional military strategist began to dance. Adaptive resonance engaged. Lieutenant Chen called out, his fingers flying across interfaces that seemed to anticipate his thoughts. Quantum dispersion at 63% and climbing. Elena Rodriguez watched the incoming energy weapons with a calm that bordered on predatory. Where the Zarkon saw a battle to be won through technological superiority, she saw a complex system waiting to be hacked, manipulated, and ultimately defeated. The Zarkon command center erupted into controlled chaos. Sub-Coordinator Krulax's bioluminescent control panels flickered with impossible data streams. Their most advanced targeting systems were being fed incorrect information, their precision weapons transforming into useless energy discharges. Impossible, Vexnar muttered, his crystalline exoskeleton shifting with what could only be described as the first tremors of genuine concern. The human fleet's response was nothing short of revolutionary. The cargo ship Hermes, which moments before had appeared to be a simple support vessel, now deployed a series of electromagnetic pulse generators. These weren't standard military-issue devices, but cobbled-together systems that combined asteroid mining equipment, communication array components, and experimental quantum disruption technology. Each human ship was becoming something more than a vessel. They were living systems, adaptive and responsive, in ways the Zarkon computational models could never predict. Target acquisition is impossible. The Zarkon's primary targeting officer reported, mandibles clicking with a combination of confusion and mounting terror. Their energy signatures are changing constantly. What the officer didn't understand, what Vexinar was only beginning to comprehend, was that this was intentional. Every shift, every seemingly random movement was a calculated response. The humans weren't just defending. They were learning. Lieutenant Chen's tactical display looked like a nightmare of computational complexity. Where Zarkon displays showed clean, precise attack vectors, his screen was a living, breathing ecosystem of potential interactions. Mining lasers were being recalibrated as precision cutting tools. Communication arrays transformed into electronic warfare platforms. Quantum resonance adaptation at 78%, Chen reported. We're not just blocking their weapons, we're understanding them. On the bridge of the Defiance, Elena Rodriguez embodied a type of leadership the Zarkon had never encountered. She wasn't just commanding, she was participating. Her neural interface wasn't just receiving information, it was contributing, analyzing, suggesting potential responses faster than any traditional command structure could process. The battle wasn't just about survival. It was about understanding. Vexinar's initial mockery transformed into something closer to genuine confusion. The humans were doing something fundamentally different. They weren't following any known rules of engagement. Every time the Zarkon thought they had found a pattern, the human fleet would shift, adapt, transform. A damaged mining support vessel suddenly became a mobile shield generator. A communication relay transformed into an energy weapon. Nothing was what it seemed. They're not fighting a battle, Krulax whispered, a note of genuine fear entering his harmonically complex voice. They're solving a problem. And in that moment of realization lay the first true vulnerability of the Zarkon Imperial fleet. They understood technology. They understood warfare, but they did not understand adaptation. The humans were writing the rules of engagement in real time, and the Zarkon were struggling to even comprehend the language. The first phase of battle was drawing to a close, but this was far from over. The industrial cooling system of the cargo ship Hermes was never meant to be a weapon of war. Designed to regulate temperatures in extreme asteroid mining conditions, it represented humanity's most fundamental approach to survival. Take what exists, understand its potential, and transform it into something unexpected. Dr. Aisha Nakamura stood at the heart of the ship's improvised combat center, her fingers dancing across modified interfaces that blurred the line between engineering and tactical warfare. Around her, a team of specialists that defied traditional military classification worked with a synchronized intensity that would have been impossible in any other context. "Thermal gradient analysis complete," she called out, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding her. "We can use the industrial cooling system to generate a localized electromagnetic pulse that will disrupt their biomechanical targeting systems." Lieutenant Marcus Chen grinned, a predatory expression that spoke to humanity's long history of turning limitations into strengths. "Basically, we're going to turn a mining ship's coolant system into the most sophisticated electronic warfare platform in the galaxy." The Zarkon had no concept of this kind of adaptive thinking. Their technology was purpose-built, each system designed with mathematical precision for a specific function. They grew their ships like living organisms, each component engineered to perform its designated task with perfect efficiency. Humanity did something different. They looked at a problem and saw possibilities. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the tactical displays with a calm that masked an intricate computational process. Her neural interface wasn't just receiving information, it was actively analyzing, predicting, suggesting potential responses that no traditional military algorithm could compute. "The Zarkon are running predictive models based on standard engagement protocols," she explained to her crew. "We're going to give them something completely unpredictable." The first demonstration of their approach came suddenly and without warning. The mining laser on the damaged corvette adjacent to the Hermes wasn't just a weapon. It was a testament to human innovation. Originally designed to crack asteroid shells with precision energy bursts, it had been modified, recalibrated, transformed. When the Zarkon energy lance approached, expecting to slice through human defenses, the modified mining laser did something impossible. It didn't just deflect the incoming weapon. It analyzed its quantum signature in real time, then generated a counter-frequency that not only neutralized the energy lance, but sent a cascading feedback pulse directly into the Zarkon weapon system. Sub-Coordinator Krulax watched in mounting horror as their most advanced energy weapons began to destabilize. "This is not possible," he muttered, his bioluminescent control panels flickering with impossible data streams. But for humans, impossibility was just another challenge to be overcome. Dr. Nakamura understood something fundamental that the Zarkon could never comprehend. Technology was not about perfection. It was about adaptation. Every limitation was an opportunity. Every constraint was a potential solution waiting to be discovered. The team on the Hermes represented humanity's true strength. There was no rigid separation between roles. The communication specialist could become an impromptu engineer. The mining technician could transform into an electronic warfare expert. Each person was not just a role. They were a potential solution waiting to be activated. "Thermal gradient weapon is online," Dr. Nakamura announced. "We can generate localized electromagnetic disruption that will make their targeting systems look like they're having a seizure." Lieutenant Chen's laugh was sharp, filled with the kind of savage joy that came from solving an impossible problem. "Let's show them what human desperation looks like." The Zarkon had never encountered an enemy like this. Their computational models, designed to predict and counter every possible tactical scenario, began to break down. The human fleet wasn't just fighting. They were solving a complex, living problem in real time. Each human ship was becoming something more than a vessel. They were adaptive systems, responsive in ways that defied traditional understanding of warfare. As the battle entered its next phase, one thing became clear. This was no longer just a conflict. It was an evolution. The first transmission came like a knife through the Zarkon fleet's collective consciousness. Vexinar's own mocking broadcast, the one he had so confidently transmitted at the beginning of the engagement, now played back across every Zarkon communication channel. But it was different, subtly manipulated. Each word of arrogance carefully extracted, remixed, transformed into a weapon more devastating than any physical assault. Observe, the manipulated recording began, Vexnar's voice now a twisted mockery of his former confidence. These primitives will be destroyed. The words fragmented, repeated, became a psychological assault that cut deeper than any energy weapon could penetrate. Lieutenant David Rodriguez, Alina's younger brother, and the Defiance's communication systems specialist, was the architect of this psychological warfare. Where traditional military communication teams saw signals and frequencies, David saw language as a living, malleable weapon. Psychological disruption at 72%, he reported, a slight smile playing across his lips. They're not just hearing the message, they're experiencing it. The Zarkon communication officer, a bioengineered being whose entire existence was dedicated to processing interstellar communications, began to malfunction. Its neural pathways, designed for perfect information processing, couldn't reconcile the linguistic paradox being transmitted. On the Zarkon flagship Dominance, Sub-Coordinator Krillax watched in growing horror. This wasn't just electronic warfare. This was something far more insidious. Humanity had weaponized context. Each manipulated transmission was a precision strike against the Zarkon's most fundamental weakness, their belief in technological and cultural superiority. Every soundbite was carefully chosen, every fragment of audio meticulously reconstructed to maximize psychological impact. Dr. Aisha Nakamura's team had transformed the ship's communication arrays into something that defied traditional understanding of electronic warfare. They weren't just jamming signals, they were rewriting them. It's about narrative, she explained to her team. We're not just disrupting their communication, we're changing their story. The human approach was fundamentally different from anything the Zarkon had ever encountered. Where alien civilizations saw communication as a means of transmitting information, humans understood it as a weapon of influence, of perception, of reality manipulation. Vexnar's initial recordings of human primitiveness now played back as a haunting testament to his own hubris. Each time a Zarkon soldier received a communication, they heard their commander's confidence gradually transforming into uncertainty, into fear. The most powerful weapon, Alina Rodriguez often said, is making an enemy doubt themselves. The psychological assault went beyond audio manipulation. The human fleet began broadcasting carefully curated tactical data, some true, some false, all designed to create maximum confusion. Zarkon targeting systems began receiving conflicting information. Defensive protocols became paralyzed by uncertainty. Lieutenant Chen's tactical displays showed something extraordinary. The Zarkon fleet wasn't just being defeated. It was being psychologically dismantled. We're not fighting their technology, he reported. We're fighting their belief system. Each human ship became a node in a living, breathing psychological warfare network. Communication specialists worked alongside tactical teams. Engineers collaborated with linguistic experts. The traditional boundaries between roles dissolved, replaced by a holistic approach to warfare that the Zarkon could not comprehend. David Rodriguez understood something fundamental about communication that elevated it beyond mere information transfer. Every message was a narrative. Every transmission was an opportunity to reshape perception. On the Dominance, Sub-Coordinator Krillax watched as the Zarkon fleet's communication networks began to fragment. What had once been a perfectly synchronized collective consciousness was now becoming a cacophony of doubt, of uncertainty. They're not just attacking our systems, Krillax whispered. They're attacking our understanding of reality. The most terrifying weapon was not a quantum lance or an energy shield. It was doubt, and humanity was wielding it with surgical precision. As the psychological warfare intensified, one thing became abundantly clear. This was no longer just a battle. This was a fundamental challenge to the Zarkon's entire way of understanding conflict, communication, and consciousness itself. The moment Vexnar committed his reserve fleet was the moment humanity sprung its most elaborate trap. What appeared to be a vulnerable human defensive position was anything but vulnerable. The seemingly random arrangement of asteroid mining platforms, disabled support vessels, and fractured communication relays was, in fact, a meticulously designed combat ecosystem. Captain Elena Rodriguez had transformed the battlefield into a living, breathing strategic nightmare. Gravitational recalibration initiated. Lieutenant Marcus Chen announced, his fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like abstract art than tactical displays. We're turning this sector of space into our weapon. The Zarkon believed in technological perfection. Each of their biomechanical vessels was a marvel of engineering, grown rather than constructed, with neural networks that could process combat scenarios in milliseconds. They saw the universe as a mathematical problem waiting to be solved with absolute precision. Humanity saw the universe as a canvas of infinite possibility. The first Zarkon ships entered the prepared zone, their quantum targeting systems registering what appeared to be multiple human vulnerabilities. Disabled vessels, weakened defensive positions, exposed communication relays. Each target was a carefully constructed illusion. Dr. Aisha Nakamura had spent weeks preparing this battlefield. What looked like abandoned mining equipment was actually a network of quantum resonance amplifiers. Seemingly disabled communication relays were actually sophisticated electronic warfare platforms capable of generating localized gravitational distortions. Gravitational manipulation at 65%, she reported, a predatory smile crossing her face. They have no idea what's coming. The asteroid mining platforms were the key. Humanity had spent centuries learning to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. The vacuum of space, dying planetary ecosystems, resource-stripped wastelands. Survival wasn't just about technology. It was about adaptation. Each asteroid became a potential weapon. As the Zarkon reserve fleet approached, the first signs of trouble began to manifest. Quantum targeting systems started receiving impossible data. Gravitational readings became nonsensical. What should have been a straightforward assault turned into a complex, nearly incomprehensible tactical scenario. Sub-Coordinator Krillax watched in mounting horror. Their vessels, he muttered, they're not just moving. They're becoming part of the environment. And that was the fundamental difference. Zarkon technology was designed to control. Human technology was designed to adapt, to merge, to become something more than its original purpose. A mining laser became a precision-cutting tool. A cargo ship's cooling system transformed into an electromagnetic pulse generator. An abandoned communication relay became a gravitational warfare platform. We're not fighting their technology, Elena Rodriguez explained to her crew. We're rewriting the entire concept of battlefield engagement. The human fleet moved like a living organism. Each ship was not just a vessel, but a potential solution. Roles dissolved. The engineering team became tactical specialists. Communication experts became impromptu weapon designers. Lieutenant Chen's tactical display was a work of chaotic brilliance, where Zarkon displays showed clean, precise attack vectors. His screen was a living ecosystem of potential interactions. Potential became reality in real time. Gravitational resonance at peak efficiency, he reported. We're not just defending. We're reshaping the fundamental physics of this combat zone. The Zarkon reserve fleet found itself caught in a trap of its own making. Every attempt to engage resulted in more confusion. Quantum targeting systems became useless. Communication networks fragmented. What should have been a decisive assault transformed into a nightmare of uncertainty. Vexnar's biomechanical interfaces began to malfunction. His most advanced predictive algorithms collapsed under the weight of human unpredictability. "This is not possible," he whispered, a note of genuine fear entering his voice for the first time. But for humanity, impossibility was just another problem waiting to be solved. As the battle entered its most critical phase, one thing became abundantly clear. Technological superiority meant nothing against a species willing to completely reimagine the rules of engagement. The trap was sprung. and the Zarkon were about to learn the true meaning of human innovation. The moment of true transformation arrived not with a thunderous explosion, but with a subtle shift in computational understanding. Vexnar's quantum processing cores began to malfunction in ways that defied every known algorithm of technological warfare. What the Zarkon considered impossible was becoming their new terrifying reality. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of this computational revolution. Her neural interface, a marvel of human bioengineering that blurred the line between organic intelligence and technological system, was doing something unprecedented. She wasn't just commanding. She was becoming the battle. Adaptive resonance protocol engaging, she murmured. Her consciousness spread across multiple computational layers that would have overwhelmed any non-human neural network. We're no longer fighting a battle. We're solving a complex, living problem. Lieutenant Marcus Chen's tactical display looked like a living nightmare of computational complexity. Where Zarkon systems showed clean, precise attack vectors, his screen was an ecosystem of potential interactions. Mining lasers transformed into precision cutting tools. Communication arrays became electronic warfare platforms. Cargo ship cooling systems generated electromagnetic pulse weapons. Sub-Coordinator Krillax watched in mounting terror as the human fleet did something fundamentally impossible. They weren't just adapting to the battle. They were rewriting the entire concept of engagement in real time. Their vessels, he whispered to a malfunctioning communication officer, they're not just moving. They're thinking. The transformation wasn't just technological. It was philosophical. Humanity had spent centuries learning to survive in the most hostile environments imaginable. Dying planetary ecosystems, resource-stripped wastelands, the unforgiving vacuum of space. Survival wasn't about perfection. It was about adaptation. Each human ship became a node in a living, breathing tactical network. Traditional boundaries dissolved. The engineering team became tactical specialists. Communication experts transformed into weapon designers. Every limitation became a potential strength. Dr. Aisha Nakamura's team had turned the battlefield into a computational canvas. What appeared to be random asteroid mining platforms were actually quantum resonance amplifiers. Seemingly disabled communication relays became sophisticated electronic warfare platforms capable of generating localized gravitational distortions. We're not just fighting, Nakamura explained to her team. We're solving a complex, living problem. The Zarkon had grown their ships like living organisms, each component engineered to perform its designated task with perfect efficiency. Humanity did something different. They looked at a problem and saw infinite possibilities. A damaged corvette suddenly became a mobile shield generator. A communication relay transformed into an energy weapon. Nothing was what it seemed. Vexnar's biomechanical targeting systems registered readings that should have been impossible. Weapons designed to slice through planetary defense shields were being analyzed, understood, and ultimately neutralized in milliseconds. Computational adaptation at 89%. Chen reported, a predatory smile crossing his face. They're not just losing. They're being systematically dismantled by their own inability to understand. The human approach was a living contradiction to everything the Zarkon understood about warfare. Where alien civilizations saw technology as a tool to be wielded, humans saw it as a language to be spoken, manipulated, transformed. Elena Rodriguez's neural interface was doing something unprecedented. She wasn't just receiving tactical information. She was becoming part of a living, computational ecosystem that responded to threats with an organic fluidity that defied traditional understanding. We are not just a fleet, she transmitted across all human communication channels. We are a living, adaptive system. The Zarkon had no framework to understand this type of engagement. Their most advanced predictive algorithms collapsed under the weight of human unpredictability. Every attempt to engage resulted in more confusion. Quantum targeting systems became useless. Communication networks fragmented. As the battle entered its most critical phase, the fundamental difference became crystal clear. Technological superiority meant nothing against a species willing to completely reimagine the rules of engagement. The transformation was complete. Humanity was no longer just fighting a battle. They were evolving right before the Zarkon's uncomprehending eyes. The final moments of the battle were unlike anything recorded in galactic history. Captain Elena Rodriguez moved beyond traditional command, her neural interface becoming a living computational ecosystem that redefined the very concept of strategic engagement. The human fleet was no longer a collection of vessels. It was a single, adaptive organism, with thousands of potential solutions coursing through its computational veins. Gravitational slingshot sequence initiated, Lieutenant Marcus Chen announced, his voice a mix of scientific precision and primal excitement. We're turning this entire sector into our weapon. The abandoned mining platforms that the Zarkon had dismissed as irrelevant now became the key to their destruction. Each platform was a carefully calibrated gravitational manipulator capable of redirecting massive energy signatures with surgical precision. What appeared to be random debris was actually a meticulously designed combat network. Sub-Coordinator Krillax watched in horror as the human fleet transformed the battlefield into a living, breathing weapon system. Dr. Aisha Nakamura's team had spent weeks preparing this moment. Every seemingly disabled vessel, every communication relay, every fragment of asteroid became a potential tactical solution. The humans didn't just fight with technology. They spoke its language, manipulated its fundamental rules. Quantum resonance at peak efficiency, Nakamura reported, her fingers dancing across interfaces that looked more like abstract art than tactical displays. We're not just defending. We're rewriting the physics of combat. The Zarkon's biomechanical vessels, once considered the pinnacle of galactic warfare technology, began to disintegrate in ways that defied computational understanding. Their energy weapons were turned back upon them. Their communication networks became conduits of their own destruction. David Rodriguez, the communication systems specialist, had transformed electronic warfare into a form of computational poetry. Each transmission was a precision strike, each frequency manipulation a line of strategic verse. Psychological disruption at 97%, he reported, a predatory smile crossing his face. They're not just losing. They're being systematically dismantled by their own inability to adapt. Vexnar's flagship dominance became the epicenter of human tactical brilliance. What had once been a symbol of Zarkon technological superiority now looked like a wounded animal, its advanced systems turned against it by an enemy that viewed technology not as a tool, but as a living language. The human fleet moved like a living organism. Each ship was not just a vessel, but a potential solution. Engineering teams became tactical specialists. Communication experts transformed into weapon designers. Every limitation became a potential strength. We are not fighting their technology. Elena Rodriguez transmitted across all human communication channels. We are solving a complex, living problem. Gravitational slingshots turned asteroids into weapons of unprecedented complexity. Repurposed communication arrays became jamming systems that left the Zarkon blind and deaf. Mining lasers transformed into precision-cutting tools that sliced through the most advanced energy shields as if they were nothing more than tissue paper. Lieutenant Chen's tactical display was a work of chaotic brilliance, where Zarkon systems showed clean, precise attack vectors. His screen was a living ecosystem of potential interactions. Potential became reality in real time. The Zarkon had grown their ships like living organisms, each component engineered to perform its designated task with perfect efficiency. Humanity did something fundamentally different. They looked at a problem and saw infinite possibilities. A damaged corvette became a mobile shield generator. A communication relay transformed into an energy weapon. Nothing was what it seemed. Sub-Coordinator Krillax's final transmission was a testament to the fundamental difference between the two civilizations. "This is not possible," he whispered, a note of genuine existential terror entering his voice. But for humanity, impossibility was just another problem waiting to be solved. As the last Zarkon vessel dissolved into radioactive particulates, the human fleet stood as a testament to a fundamental truth. Survival was not about perfection. It was about adaptation, about seeing potential where others saw only limitations. The symphony of destruction reached its final devastating movement, and humanity had rewritten the entire performance. The aftermath of the battle was not a moment of celebration, but of profound transformation. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defiance, her neural interface still humming with the residual computational energy of the most remarkable engagement in galactic history. Around her, the surviving crew moved with a quiet intensity that spoke volumes about humanity's true strength. Dr. Aisha Nakamura approached, a data crystal containing the battle's computational records clutched in her hand. "It wasn't just a victory," she said, her voice a mixture of scientific precision and something deeper, a sense of fundamental understanding. It was a statement. The galactic communication networks were already ablaze with the implications of what had just occurred. The Zarkon Imperium, a civilization that had dominated interstellar conflict for millennia, had been comprehensively dismantled by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Vexnar's flagship, the Dominance, existed now only as radioactive particulates dispersing across the sector. His final transmission, a desperate, fragmented cry of incomprehension, would be studied by civilizations for generations to come. Lieutenant Marcus Chen was already analyzing the computational data, his interfaces revealing layers of strategic complexity that defied traditional understanding of warfare. "We didn't just win a battle," he reported. "We rewrote the entire concept of strategic engagement." The human fleet was not a traditional military formation. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of problem solvers. Engineers became tactical specialists. Communication experts transformed into weapon designers. Every limitation was a potential strength. David Rodriguez, the communication systems specialist, had already begun the process of archiving the psychological warfare techniques they had developed. What they had done was more than a military victory. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligence could interact with technology. "We are not a military," Elena Rodriguez transmitted across multiple communication channels. "We are a solution-finding organism." The data from the battle would reshape galactic understanding of conflict, of technology, of the very nature of intelligence itself. Humanity had shown something fundamental. Survival was not about perfection. It was about adaptation, about seeing potential where others saw only limitations. Research institutions across human-controlled space began processing the battle data. Every transmission, every tactical movement, every computational decision became a case study in adaptive intelligence. Dr. Nakamura understood the deeper implication. This wasn't just a battle, she explained to her team. This was proof of a fundamental truth about our species. We don't just survive, we transform. The surviving alien civilizations that had watched the conflict unfold began to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. The species that had been dismissed as a nascent, potentially irrelevant civilization had just demonstrated a level of adaptive intelligence that defied conventional understanding. Lieutenant Chen's computational analysis revealed something extraordinary. The human fleet had not just defeated the Zarkon. They had learned from them in real time, adapting their own systems faster than the Zarkon could comprehend their own defeat. "We spoke their technological language," Chen reported, "and then we rewrote it." The transmission that would be remembered for generations was simple, yet profound. Broadcast across every known communication frequency, it carried a message that would reshape galactic understanding. Adaptation is our weapon. Creativity is our shield. We are humanity. Vexinar's earlier mockery, those transmissions of ridicule that had been broadcast at the conflict's beginning, now played as a haunting testament to the dangers of underestimating an adaptive intelligence. On Earth, in research facilities and military academies, the battle would be studied not as a moment of triumph, but as a case study in problem-solving. Humanity had shown that true strength was not about technological superiority, but about the capacity to see potential in every limitation. The human fleet began to disperse, each vessel carrying with it the computational records of a battle that had fundamentally changed galactic understanding. They were not returning as conquerors. They were returning as solution finders. As the U.S. Defiance prepared to make its final jump back to human-controlled space, Captain Elena Rodriguez looked out at the cosmic canvas before her. The battlefield was now nothing more than dispersing particulates and quantum echoes. But the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same.